It's time for the chip race.
For strategy this week, we welcome back to the show a man with 3 bracelets and over 18 million in live cashes, but if you're to believe one particularly outspoken pro, more than that in buy-ins. He is one of the game's very best players, and now he's a businessman, having just released a fantastic new poker app called DTO Poker Trainer. He is, of course, Dominik Nitsche. Dominik, welcome back to the show.
Wait, did I not win 4 bracelets? You said 3, right?
Oh, did you?
I love that you had to look it up, Dom.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I'm just going to look up how many bracelets I had. I was still 0, yeah.
There's a really good reason why I didn't count one of them.
I'm going to roll with 3, and then it's like, wait a second. No.
As is becoming a theme on this show, I'm just going to leave in my mistake. It's funnier. Well, look, to the hand, it comes from the final table of the 100k at the WSOP this year. I remember Dara and I were sort of on the rail for this one, as it was adjacent to the limit final table of our good pal Jan Sochanik, who was playing. You eventually came 6th, Dominik, and our villain in the hand is the eventual winner, Keith Tilston. With 6 left, action is folded around to you on the button, and with 6 million, which was 15 big blinds at the time, you look down at the very pretty pocket queens. This is a pretty clear limp at this stack depth, and you do limp. For our listeners who might not be au fait with why this is a limp, can you explain the reasons?
Yeah, obviously if you want to say this is a clear limp, sure, yeah, if you have that in your game, it is one of the first things you do want to limp. You could certainly make a case for just playing a race strategy. You probably couldn't make a case for just shoving. That's a bit wild with 15 big blinds. You certainly want to do other things. The question is really only min race or limp. I tend to favor limp because, you know, I could give you like a whole GTO speech, but the truth is people don't really play correctly in limp pots post-flop. So therefore you generate more EV post-flop. If you look at how the blinds are supposed to respond against the limp, I would assume Igor gets it close to right. And with all due respect to Keith Tilston, I don't know how good his 15 big blind game is. I would expect him to not have any clue whatsoever.
I love that. With respect to Keith Tilston, I don't know how good his game is, but I assume it's completely awful.
Yeah, sure, leave that in. But, you know, it's all funny and stuff, but there's truth to it because if you ask most people, they wouldn't know what I'm limping with on the button 15 big blinds deep, really, and it becomes very apparent throughout the hand that he has no idea what my range looks like.
Yeah.
So, judging from the responses I got about the hand, it looks like that most people don't know what it looks like, so therefore I think my assumption is right.
Well, Dara, ICM in this spot, and throughout the hand actually, is hugely relevant. We will come to the specifics at each decision point, but can you quickly summarise the effect of ICM on a final table such as this?
Yeah, like as Dom mentioned there, with this stack depth, we're going to be limping quite a bit. And because we really don't want to bust now, by limping, we're keeping the pot smaller. We're also able to play a much wider range of hands. I did actually feed this into Hold'em Resources calculator, and it advocated limping 9.8% of hands if there's no ICM. But with ICM, the range almost doubles to 17.1%. And we'll want to jam less hands because obviously it's a disaster when we get called and bust.
Yep, that seems very correct to me as well.
So, Dominik, you do limp. Igor completes with the 2-3 suited, and Tilston checks his option with 10-3 offsuit. The flop comes 9-6-6, 2 hearts. You have the Queen of Hearts. It's checked to you, and you have what I think is a pretty close decision to bet or check. Did a combination of ICM and you having the Queen of Hearts tip towards check, or did you randomise in that spot once checked to?
I actually honestly thought I had a fairly easy check. I didn't think there was much point in betting the flop there. 9-6-6 typically is a bet board for me limping because it's hard for me to have a 6. I'm pretty heavily towards Broadway cards, big pairs, couple ace-x that I want to limp there. So the 6 doesn't really hit me, and it certainly hits them very well given how wide their range is. So yeah, it's kind of a spot I think I should be checking pretty much all the time. The idea is basically that I hope they make top pair or something, and then I can force them to bluff catch twice, or something else happens, they bluff into me and I call down. I don't think there's much point in betting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You do check, and the turn comes the 10 of hearts. Igor checks, Tilston bets 800k into 1.6 million. My first reaction was that seemed like a bad bet from him. However, Dara, you did a little bit of a breakdown on this one, and actually that bet has some merits.
Yeah, like this is not a good board for Dom's range, as he mentioned. And obviously we can see Dom sitting there with queens, but most of the time the 10 actually makes the best hand for Tilston. But it's a very vulnerable best hand. So it benefits a lot from just betting and getting the opponents to fold. They'll be folding a decent amount of equity in a lot of spots. So yeah, I think while it's a pretty weak hand to bet, I think there are merits to betting.
I would be surprised if his turn bet is good, simply because he doesn't have a decent kicker with it. So like when I check back, I have all the queen 10s. I can have king 10. I could certainly limp ace 10 suited sometimes as well. I could also have a couple of flushes. I don't always bet the flush draw on the flop, given what I said about the paired board. Really, I'm very protected, I would say. If he wants to bet the 10, he should probably go for a much smaller sizing than half pot to fold out all my overcards. I think the half pot sizing pretty much doesn't accomplish very much with his hand specifically. And if he decides to choose that sizing, I would expect to see a bit of a stronger 10 there. It's not a crucial mistake, but it's kind of going to add up when we're going on to the next street. So which is why I'm going on and on about this, because it is important for the river.
I think we're really getting to the crux of what makes this hand interesting, because obviously once we get to the river, it is going to get even more interesting, and maybe things are going to go in a way that a lot of people don't instinctively agree with, and a lot of people have already voiced that opinion. Dom, you called and Igor folded. That seems like an absolute no-brainer. Your hand's too good to fold and definitely not good enough to raise on such a wet and paired board. Let's take it to the river. An offsuit 8. Tilston makes it 1.2 million into 3.4 million. A sizing that looks like a value bet or maybe a large blocker bet. Dominik, your hand is under repped and it only has to be good about 21% of the time. However, you do lose to boats, trips, any 7, jack, queen, which, okay, maybe you block a fair bit, and flushes, which you block as well. I never like to say there are no bluffs, but it's hard to come up with one, especially at this sizing. How did you put your list of combos together?
Right on, yeah. It is a very, very tough spot, obviously, because, as you said, I never like to think that people have no bluffs, but in this point, it's really hard to imagine a bluff. And I had the queen of hearts in my hand, and if he's bluffing, there's a good chance he wants to have the queen of hearts in his hand. So I just sat there obviously thinking about what he could be bluffing with, and I fairly quickly decided that a bluff for him is very unlikely. The main problem now becomes is that I think with his sizing, his range is so wide that it could very well contain any 6. So once he can have all those hands, it's actually really hard for me to justify bluff catching with a hand that even blocks one of his reasonable bluffs. So now we're on to my second time bank, and now I'm basically just sitting there thinking, is he ever betting a 10 like this? If he is, I should call, and if he isn't, I should fold. I decided for a number of reasons, not least of all timing, sizing, that wasn't a bluff in my head. I went back to the turn decision and said, well, if he half-potted the turn with a 10, it would pretty much have to be king 10 or better, because he should know that I could very well have queen 10. So for him to have a 10 that can bet, it has to be king 10.
To push back on that, I suppose the obvious ones I was thinking of were 10-8 and 10-9.
Yes.
Because,
yes.
You're obviously beating those because he effectively gets counterfeited, but at the same time, he might perceive them to be strong enough for this blocker bet and mix them in the same way as he might bet a 6. Adding these in, does that not make it a compelling call?
It makes it a tempting call, certainly, yeah. I mean, I spent 2 minutes in the tank, and I don't do that for nothing. The truth is, obviously, I don't know whether I made a right fold in this spot, because I don't know exactly how Keith plays, and neither does anyone, really.
Indeed. Well, Dara, content creator and retired poker pro Doug Polk broke down this hand on his channel. In hilarious fashion, he built the hand history up to a presumptive call, treating the fold like a punchline and saying you can't spell Nitsche without nit. Dara, was Dom a bit of a nit here?
I think Dom had good reasons. It's an intriguing river spot, and I did look at it in PO with a couple of different ranges. I mean, I obviously don't know Dom's exact limping range with 15 big blinds. That's, as you said, that's one of the advantages of that play, is it's very hard to play against. But I couldn't find any reasonable range where queens was a fold. But when you drill down on the solutions, that assumed, first of all, that the villain is bluffing the appropriate amount of bluffs on the river. And if we can rule out bluffs or a lot of bluffs, then that edges it closer. It also assumes, as Dom actually identified really well there, that his weakest value bet should be king 10. So we need to know whether he's value betting king 10 or not. If he is, then we probably have to call. But if we think he's not value betting king 10 and we also think he's not bluffing, then you can certainly justify the fold. This is a very unclear hand because both players are kind of unclear on how the other player is playing. The villain in this case doesn't really know what Dom's range looks like at any point in the hand and plays rather unorthodoxly because of that. But Dom also isn't clear, first of all, if there are bluffs, secondly, what tens. And I mean, the fact that he did bet this hand, which he clearly shouldn't bet at this sizing, illustrates that it's very, very hard in these spots to get a clear idea of the villain's range.
Yeah, the biggest worry at the time was that he would overplay a hand, such as a random 10. But it's very tough, even for me, that when I limp the button, to completely visualize the big blind range yet, because not even I'm that experienced yet. And then there's so many 6x for both players. And I would assume that with Igor in the hand, his turn betting range should be even tighter. But it's fair to say that I was wrong about this.
Yeah, and to return to David's question, ICM is also a factor on the river. I mean, it's not a massive factor, obviously, because it's a fairly small bet. But if you run the numbers, you find that if ICM wasn't a factor, Dom needs to be good 21.4% of the time. And because of ICM, it's actually a bit higher. It's 22.3%. So that means we do have a few more folds. It's a fairly common misconception, at least among people that I coach. They think ICM only applies in situations where you're all in. But in these spots, ICM, even on smaller bets, has an impact.
That is certainly true as well. One other interesting idea on the river was
raise, maybe.
Raise, certainly. I considered it. Definitely a possibility. With the Queen of Hearts sticking it in. I kind of like that actually a lot better than anything else.
You do now.
In game, it's obviously tough to come up with this on the final table, but theoretically, it is a pretty strong play, blocking Queen deck. If I can go back and think about everything again, I would probably just stick it in. Yeah, I still don't think calling's the right play. I think sticking it in is pretty good.
Yeah, I think the commentators actually thought you were trying to decide between calling and raising.
It's a very interesting decision to bluff there, certainly. I think to most people it just looks kind of unbelievable, which is probably why I didn't do it, because he checked back the flop. And yeah, I think if I'm bluffing there, it's a very slightly plus EV play. And then I was thinking, well, with ICM, it's probably not plus EV enough.
Yeah, I looked at it in PO with my perception of the ranges, and PO thinks also that the raise is plus EV. The EV of raising and calling are very similar, and actually Snowy thinks the EV of raising and calling is identical, and it does sometimes raise as a mergy bluff.
That gives me more confidence, because I just threw it out. I never looked at it yet. I was kind of tilted by the hand.
Well, Dom, a fascinating and maybe tilting hand it was from the biggest WSOP buy-in this year. I want to wish you an awful lot of luck with DTO going forward. I know yourself and Marcus Prince have put an awful lot of work into it, and having had the opportunity to play around with it, I do think it's a game changer, and I do think it's going to be an amazing piece of software for players going forward, the kind of thing that they can do on their sort of downtime when they're on the tube or when they're on the bus to commute and improve their poker game at the same time, and probably in a sort of an incremental way you'll have helped destroy the game.
I'll happily take it as my revenge.
Well, sincerely, thank you so much, Dom. We hope to have you back for a future strategy hand. That would be great.
Always, yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been fun.